everyone, my name is Grace Taylor. I'm a junior at CC. I use she, her pronouns. I have a dog, so hopefully y'all can just allow for a couple mishaps that might happen throughout the class. I'll be leading y'all through a Vinyasa flow, and the most important part of a Vinyasa is your breath. So if you ever feel as though your breath is getting a little bit ahead of you or anything like that, you're always welcome to go into child's pose or any pose that you feel helps bring you back to your breath. So we'll get started in a comfortable seated position. I'm going to choose to sit on my heels, but cross-legged is always a beautiful alternative, as well as anything else that y'all feel as though is good for you. We're going to bring some attention to the spine, maybe placing our hands back there just to really feel into it, bring some sensation there, key into where it's at today. We're then going to start keying into the breath and ridding the lungs of all stale air. Exhale, inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come overhead, right arm goes forward, left arm comes back, gentle twist. Inhale, back through center. Exhale, switch. Inhale, back through center. Exhale, switch. Inhale, back up through center. Exhale, switch. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, knees widen and your hands plant on the ground. Torso goes in between the knees. Child's pose. Hands come onto the right side of your mat or your space, targeting the left side body. Left hip goes towards left heel. And back on through center, onto the left side of your space. Right hip goes towards right heel. Inhale, coming back through center. Exhale to prepare. And inhale, coming in through tabletop. Just for a moment, we're going to start really feeling into that spine, add some lubrication, some fluidity. So just finding some movements that feel good for now, just for a couple breaths. And on an inhale, lifting your gaze up, belly draws down, hips come forward or up, and exhale, invert. Belly comes to spine. Inhale, cow. Sorry, I had that backwards. Exhale, cow. Inhale, cat. Exhale, cow. Inhale, cat. And we're going to shift our hands so that our fingertips are pointing towards our knees, and we're just going to create some circles with our body, just trying to warm up those wrists. And alter directions if you haven't already. And placing those hands on forward, we're going to keep our knees where they are, or we're going to keep our hips where they are, which is over the knees, creating a 90-degree in the hips. And we're just going to walk our hands on forward and create a puppy pose. The goal of this pose eventually is to bring your chest and your chin onto the mat, but that's just the goal. That's not where I can get, nor would I expect anyone else to. Breathing in here, focusing on release. With each exhale, maybe getting a little bit closer to that aesthetic goal. And walking our hands back into a tabletop, we're going to lift our right arm up, twisting towards the sky, and exhale, threading that right arm through left, and bringing that left arm overhead, or maybe finding a half bind, grabbing onto the hip crease on the right side. Hand comes overhead and closer to the face, putting the weight into that left arm, shifting the right arm up, and placing it down where it was. Same side, same thing on the left side. Left side, shoulders go up, open up to the ceiling, and exhale, thread that left arm through the right, and finding a similar variation to the side that you found on the other. And inhale, bringing that right arm overhead and back towards the face, putting the weight into that right arm. Left arm shoots up, shoulders open towards the ceiling, and exhale, placing that hand down now. We're going to tuck the toes, maybe bring the hands a little bit further away from the knees, and begin to place some weight into those toes, and begin to prep the fingers, placing weight into the knuckles as well as the palms, fingertips, all of it really grounding into the ground. And once you feel like you have a proper grip, shifting those hips back and up for our first downward dog. My hamstrings are always really tight, so I like to keep a bend in my knees and walk out the dog a little bit. Finding any motion that might feel good to you. Or choosing to stay stationary. If this is in your practice, lifting up the right arm, placing it on the left ankle, and looking under that left arm. And switching on sides. And letting that go to find a downward dog once again. And we're going to take small little steps to the top of our mat to find our first forward fold of our practice. Bending the knees, allowing for tightness in the hamstrings, and for the torso to lie on the thighs. Grabbing hold onto opposite elbows, maybe straightening one leg, bending the other. Really working into those hips and the hamstrings. Exhale, hands come onto ground. Inhale, halfway lift. Shoulders are going to roll up, back, down, and together to find proper engagement. Exhale, let that go. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, finding the vertebrae with the knees bent, rolling on up to mountain pose. And we'll meet at the top of your mat. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, sitting back into a chair position. Minding the spine, making sure that there's no like real tooch in the back and you're not curving either. It's a nice neutral. And if keeping your hands above your head is too difficult, you can always have the variation of hands to heart center. You want to make sure that you can see your toes over your knees are not coming forward. Just really trying to fire up the legs. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, mountain pose, standing position. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, sitting back into chair, hands come to heart center. Staying here for just a moment as we prepare to twist. Making sure that you can see your toes over your knees. Your shoulders are broad and open. Your heart is open. Inhale, preparing. Exhale, bringing the right elbow onto the left knee for a twist. Making sure that your knees are in line, your hips are, one is not forward, one is not back. And if it's in your practice, you can let your arms fly just for a moment. Coming back to a twist, we're going to lift that right leg up and back to find a twisted crescent. And if you fall like I did, that's great. It's fine. We can laugh at ourselves. Exhale, running the air, this lungs of stale air. Inhale, coming up through center to find a crescent lunge. Making sure that our hips are in line. Our knee is over our ankle, and our ankle is over our toes and the back one, if that inspires a bend in order to keep the back from arching, then a bend in the back knee is great. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, left arm comes back to meet right thigh. And we'll just do an exalted crescent. Little bit of a back bend. And inhale, back through center. Exhale, opening up to a warrior two. Warrior two is a little bit of a tricky pose alignment-wise. Not as in it's tricky, just there's a lot of things to remember. Most importantly, we want to take care of that knee. We want it over the ankle, and we want it not coming side to side, but right over. Secondarily, we want to focus on the hips, but I don't really have range to open them up completely. And then we want our shoulders directly over our hips, our scapulas together and engaged in the back, and then our hands coming out from there. Exhale, reverse warrior. Back hand can go anywhere except for the back knee. Inhale, back through center, straightening that front leg. And we're going to recheck in with the body, making sure that there's a micro bend in each knee so that we're avoiding hyperextending. Our hips are opened up relatively, and our shoulders are over our hips. We're gonna scoot our hips forward and backwards, trying to find a little bit of space in there. And as if someone's grabbing onto that front arm, you're gonna keep going forward, forward, forward until you find a crunch in that side. And then you're gonna drop your hand anywhere except for your knee, making sure you've maintained that micro bend in your front leg in order to avoid hyperextension. Really opening those shoulders up to the ceiling. And firing up the abs, we're going to come on back through center. Inhale, exhale, Reverse, popping that front hip forward, planting the back hand anywhere except for the knee, and back on through center. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to windmill the hands onto the ground, framing the front foot. Front foot lifts up and reaches back to meet the back foot, and we're going to go through our flow. Here you can either do knees, chest, chin, chaturanga or knees, chest, chin to a cobra, or you can go straight down in one line, chaturanga, up to upward dog, making sure that your thighs and your legs stay off the ground. And exhale, meeting in a downward dog. That's what our flow is going to look like. And we're going to do the same thing now on the other side. Noticing now if there's any differences in your downward dog. Inhale, bending the knees, gaze go forward. Exhale, hop, step, or float to the front of your mat for a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, mountain pose, meeting at the front of your mat. Hands come overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, sitting down into that chair pose. Making sure that you can see the toes. Exhale, hands come through heart center. We're going to bring that left elbow onto the right knee this time. Exhale, preparing to twist. Inhale once more, and exhale, twist. But making sure that your knees are in line as are your hips, and using the torque in your elbow and your knee in order to really open up those shoulders, twisting through the abdominal. If it's in your practice, opening up, flying for a second. Exhale, hands come through heart center, lifting that left leg. We're going to bring it on back to a crescent twist. Whoops, my balance is off today. And coming on up through center, making sure that our hips are in line. I'm a little wobbly today. Knees over your ankle, and your heel is over your toes in the back leg. Inhale, hands come up through center. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come up overhead. Right arm reaches for left thigh, and we're going to do a little bit of a back bend. Exalted crescent. And back up through center. Opening up into our warrior two. Making sure that our knee is over our ankle. Making sure that our knee is not going from side to side, but directly over it. Shoulders, hips, back, arms. Taking a couple breaths here just to ground. And exhale, placing that back hand on the back leg. Coming in through a little backward bend, reverse warrior. And back on through center. Straightening that front leg, hips, shoulders, back, arms. And as if someone's pulling those front fingertips, you can shift your hips back and keep going until you find a crunch in your side body. And then recommitting to that opening up towards the ceiling, making sure there's a micro bend in that front leg. Engaging the torso, the abs, coming back on through center, and shifting those hips forward now to find a reverse triangle. And back through center. We're going to windmill our hands on down, framing our front foot. Front foot comes up to meet the back, and go through your flow. Exhale to downward dog. If the flow doesn't serve you at any point in the practice, feel free to abandon it and just meet us straight in downward dog. All right, we're gonna do that sequence one more time, but this time with our breath. So bending the knees, looking forward, exhale, and on an inhale, hop, step, or float to a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, mountain pose. Hands come over head. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Sitting back into our chair. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to twist. Right elbow to left leg. Inhale, lifting that left leg, right leg up and back in order to find a twisty crescent. And inhale, crescent lunge. Exhale, preparing. Inhale, hands come overhead. Exhale, left arm comes to right leg. Exalted warrior. Inhale, back up through center. And opening up into warrior two. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, reverse warrior. Inhale, back up through center, straightening into a triangle. Exhale to find a extended side angle triangle. Inhale, back up through center. Exhale, reverse triangle. Inhale, triangle. Exhale, planting the hands on the ground and go through your flow. Beautiful work, guys. Exhale to find a downward dog. Inhale, bending the knees. Exhale, hop, step, or float to a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, hands come over to heart center. And exhale down into heart center. And follow that into a chair. This time we're going to bring our left elbow onto our right side. Inhale, exhale. Inhale to lift that left leg up, finding our crescent. And inhale to find a crescent lunge. Exhale to prepare. Inhale, hands come over come overhead. Exhale to heart center. Right arm comes to meet left thigh. Revert exalted crescent. And inhale, back up through center. Exhale, turning out to warrior two. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, reverse warrior. Inhale, back up through center, straightening that front leg. Exhale, extended side angle triangle. Inhale, back up through center. Exhale, reverse triangle. Inhale, back up through center. Exhale, frame the front foot and go through your flow. Excellent work, guys. Thanks for bearing with me on that one. And inhale, lifting that right leg up. Bending the knee and finding a three-legged dog with a little bit of a scorpion dog. And straightening that leg out. Exhale, bringing it in between our hands. And we're just going to sit in a slow lunge for a bit, just feeling into our hips. And exhale, coming back into a halfway split, front leg, not arm. Straighten this in. We're just gonna curve our spine over. If there's any pain, keep that spine upright. And come on forward, low lunge. Tuck the back toes, lifting on up. We're gonna plant that left hand down and lift that right arm up. Slight twist. And if you'd like, you can take the option to do a Shiva twist. And back up through center. Exhale, hands come down. This time we're going to lift up into another crescent lunge. Exhale to come through warrior two just for a second. Triangle pose. And Restorative, where both toes are headed in the same direction as the hips. You can play around with distances between your feet, but you want to make sure that you have a micro bend in each leg. And then you're going to bring your hands up to find a star pose. You want to bring your heels in a little bit so that your toes are pointed out. And exhale, horse squat. For a horse squat, you want to make sure that there's no like weird tooch in the butt, but your shoulders are over your hips, your back is relatively tucked, but nothing like painful or uncomfortable. Inhale, star pose. Exhale, horse squat. Inhale, star pose. Exhale, horse squat. And just staying here for a moment. Maybe doing a little pulse, maybe keeping it stationary. And star pose, bringing those toes in a little bit now, a little bit in comparison to relative to the heels. And we're going to lift our hands out to the side and hinge at the hips with a micro bend in our knees. And just let that spine, that head hang on down. All right. Left hand plants underneath the nose, right arm goes up. Exhale, go ahead and switch those out. Right arm goes down, left arm comes up. And letting that go now. And just a couple more seconds of the crown reaching in the direction of the ground. And coming up to a halfway lift in this wide-legged forward fold, we're going to lift on up to our Restorative, and then we're going to come into our triangle pose just for a moment. And we're going to windmill our hands on to frame our front foot, lifting that front foot up and going through your flow. And downward dog whenever you're done with that. I don't know about y'all, but my hamstrings are feeling much better than they were at the beginning. And lifting that left leg up now. Three-legged dog, bending the knees, scorpion dog. And straightening that leg out. And shifting it in between our front hands. We're just going to sit in that low lunge for a second. And we're going to shift on back to find a halfway split. And coming on forward, tucking the back toes, finding a low lunge once again. Planting the right arm down, left arm comes up this time. Finding a bit of a twist. And if you did a Shiva squat on the other side, or Shiva squat on the other side, I'd suggest doing it on this side as well. Shiva twist. I don't know, I'll have to fact check that one, sorry guys. And coming back through center if you change. And bringing that right hand down onto the ground just for a moment. Inhale, finding our crescent lunge, and exhale, coming into warrior two, triangle pose just for a moment. And then bring our feet prepping for star pose. Hands come up, heart is open, chest is proud, fingertips are wide. And exhale, coming into our horse squat. We're gonna stay here this time. Hands come onto the thighs as long as it's not the knees, a little bit away from that. And we're gonna bring that shoulder forward. And switch. This is the pace that I'm choosing to do it at. Y'all can do it at whatever pace y'all choose. But we are going to be here for a minute. And we're just going to hang out in horse pose just for a moment more. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, star pose. Ah, yes. Shake out the hips a little bit and bring those toes a little bit in relative to the heels. And we're going to hinge at the hips once more to find a wide-legged forward fold. This time we're going to grab onto our right ankle with both arms, with both hands. If you can reach, if not, go for the toes or the calf or whatever feels good. And back on through center, onto the other side now. I personally like to bring a lot of momentum and movement, or not momentum, but movement into each pose. If you're more of a staticky person, that's great. If you're more of a still person, that's also awesome. It's all about listening to the body. And coming on through center, we're going to start doing spider squats. So just warming up the hips, warming up the body, starting by bending one leg, moving on to that side, going on to the other, and then progressively getting lower and lower. My pose may look a little bit different than yours, and that is great. If you are more of a still person and you're a little bit more practiced of a yogi, you can go for the bind. Just make sure that you do it on both sides. Whatever pace you're doing it at, it's right as long as you're tuning into the breath while you're doing it. And here we're gonna do a little playtime. If you're an inversions person, here's your time to shine. If you like to do any handstands or forearm stands or headstands, here's your time. I'm gonna cue for a headstand. So you can still be in your whatever pose you like to get into it. So you're gonna start by making sure that your elbows are shoulder width apart by grabbing onto each side. That's how far your elbows are gonna be. Then you're gonna create a little basket with your hands by intertwining your fingertips. And you're gonna place your head right in that, but you still want your head on the ground as well. You don't want all your weight in your hands. Then, once you put your head on the ground, you're gonna start to shift your hips over your shoulders. Start by lifting one leg, then the other, and then maybe both. But you want to make sure that you're not jumping in order to protect the neck. Once you're here, you can figure out that I'm a little wobbly today and start to do some fun stuff with your legs. If you fall, that's great. No problems. In order to protect your neck, though, if you're falling backwards, just make sure that you tuck. And just a couple more seconds of this, yogis, practicing anything that feels good to your body. And then we'll get into our cool down. So when you're done, inverters coming on down, finding our Krasarita, wide-legged forward fold, and inhale coming up through center. One more star pose to bring in all your might, all your strength. And coming into our triangle pose, left leg is now forward. Windmilling our hands to frame that front left leg brings up, and we'll go through our flow. Downward dog, last one of the day, or the night, or the afternoon. Inhale, bending the knees, gaze goes in between the hands. Hop, step, or float to the front of your mat, forward fold. And we're just gonna bend on down and come into a seated position on the ground with our sit bones planted. And then we're gonna move some of our flesh away from our sit bones. And we're going to inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, shifting at the hips. And find a caterpillar pose. I like to bend my knees because I have a little bit of discomfort in my lower spine. I have a pinched nerve. So I'm going to protect that by bending the knees. If it feels good to keep your back straight, definitely do that. If it feels good to round, do that as well. Just listening to the body here. This is not about aesthetics. With each exhale, maybe coming a little bit closer for your torso to be close or on your legs. And inhale back up through an L pose. And we're going to bend our knees, bringing the soles of our feet together to find a butterfly pose. If you have a pillow, it feels really good to place it at the base of your spine. And then come on back. This is like my favorite pose of all time. I feel like it opens everything for me. But if you prefer to not be reclined and be upward upright, then that's great as well.
Today, you were far away, and I didn't ask you why.
And using our hands, whether we're reclined or upright, we're going to bring those knees together. And then if we were upright, we're just going to come onto our back. If we're reclined and we have a pillow underneath us, coming onto one side, moving that pillow out of the way. And with our knees still bent and our back on the ground, we're going to get ready for some bridge. So you want to make sure that your heels are relatively close to your fingertips. And then for the first pose, you're just going to lift those hips up and tighten the glutes at the top. If it feels good, you can shift those shoulders underneath the shoulder blades and find a bind with your fingertips underneath your hips. Making sure that your toes are facing that way and your knees are relatively in line with your heels. You can feel into that. And shifting your shoulders away, lifting your heels, dropping your hips onto the ground. And lifting, maybe bringing your feet a little bit further apart and bringing your knees together, fallen bridge. And then for the second variation, we're going to do 3 bridges in total. We just did 1, so we have 2 more to go. I'm going to cue for a wheel, but if you want to do what we just did, and if you're not there in your practice yet, that's awesome as well. If you'd like, you can put a pillow directly underneath your hips in order to do a restorative bridge, but I'll start cueing for wheel. So with your heels about the distance away from your fingertips, you should be able to touch them. Your knees directly over your heels. You're going to bring your fingertips so that they lie just underneath the start of your shoulders. And then your palms are going to be on the ground. You're going to lift your hips up just as we did before, but this time with weight in your hands. You're going to bring your the crown of your head to the ground, and then you're just going to lift up. If at any point you feel any pain, please listen to that. But if you'd like to go for a fish pose, you can start to lengthen out your legs, or you can bring your feet a little bit closer. This is your time to monkey around as long as you're being safe about it. And coming on down, you're gonna bring the crown of your head slowly onto the ground, and then your shoulders, and then with your heels still lifted up, and maybe bring them a little bit further away, you're gonna bring your hips onto the ground, and then bring your feet a little further apart to find reclined, or fallen bridge. Fallen bridge, that's what it is. I'd also like to thank you guys for being here today, putting the time aside from your day to listen to your body. No matter what you did on the mat today, as long as you were listening to your body, serving it, yoga to the fullest potential, and that's something to take pride in, feel accomplishment of. During this time, it can feel hard to stay motivated, or whatever it is that you're feeling, it's valid, it is right. Sometimes we just need to get out of our head and feel into our body. And I, on behalf of your body, would like to thank you for that. You're obviously not here for me, you're here for you. And that should be what you take away from this mat today. We're going to do one more bridge. I've given you 3 variations. Feel free to do whatever it is that you'd like. If you'd like some more yoga playtime, this is your time to indulge in that. But we will have some more poses as well, just some chill ones. So coming up into a bridge or staying exactly how you were. And letting that go. We're going to keep our knees bent. We're going to bring our right knee into our chest. Give it a little hug. My hips are extremely tight today. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a circular motion in both directions. And then we're going to, with our foot flexed, place it on top of our left heel and bring that hip out a little bit. If this is enough of a stretch, stay here, bring your heel a little bit closer. If you're feeling a little bit more, you can either grab underneath the thigh or over the calf. Just listening to the body, making any adjustments as needed, but making sure that that foot is flexed in order to protect the knee. If your breath has disappeared at some point throughout the practice, throughout the chaos of rapid motion, reconnecting with it now. Maybe making it audible, or keeping it close and keeping it silent. And we're going to let go of that pose. Now switching legs, right foot comes down, left ankle hooks onto right knee, and finding a similar variation on this side, although if it's not accessible to you, finding a similar variation, maybe not the same. Keep on doing what you're doing. All right, we're going to let that go. And we're going to bring our legs into our body. I'm going to find some circular motions. Sorry guys, a couple technical difficulties. Okay, sorry about that, guys. And then we're gonna come into a happy baby. So we want our tailbone on the ground, and if that means not necessarily grabbing the feet and just grabbing the thighs, then that's what it means. I like to go from side to side, giving that lower spine a little bit of a massage. And then I'm gonna bend one leg, straighten the other, ninja baby, I believe is the technical term. And then we're gonna bring those knees in, and we're just gonna rock and roll up this length of our spine until we find a seated position. And here we're gonna bring our right leg to a bent position and shift onto that right hip. We're gonna bring that left leg on back and find a swan or a pigeon pose. If you'd like to go for a further back bend, my back is needing a little bit more, I'm gonna go for a king pigeon pose. And then I'm gonna go into my resting swan. And we're gonna come on up, shift onto that right hip once more, bring that left leg on forward. The left leg is gonna come forward now, finding a bent position in the front, shifting onto the left hip, and then bringing that right leg back. And we're going to find a similar variation on this side now. And into resting if you're not already there. And coming on up, shifting onto that left heel, bringing that right leg on forward. And we're going to shift onto our back, bringing our right leg in, left leg goes long. And with our left palm, we're going to bring that right knee onto the left side. Gaze goes right to intensify the stretch. Before we put our knee on the ground, we want to make sure that our shoulders are on the ground. Spend the most of your time. Wish I had more time listening to you speak. Think about every day on my mind. Are you awake? Think about every day on my mind. Are you awake? And bring that knee back in through center, giving it a little squeeze, giving it a little bit more love. Letting the right leg go long, left knee comes into chest, giving it a little bit of a hug before we twist and bring it onto the right side this time. Gaze goes to the left. I fall down my chair. I've been so numb for so many years. And it's so easy to be blinded by the light, to feel lonely in the night. Miss lonely in the breeze. I got dust in my eyes, rust in my mind. And bring that left knee back in through the chest, giving it a hug, giving it some love. And letting that leg go. Getting ready to rest here for a moment, getting comfortable. Whether that's taking up space or maybe connecting to the belly and the heart. We'll be here for just a couple moments, letting our body feel the effects of the practice. Two fingers at a time now. Keep my head above the outline. Swear shots one more time. Listening to the speak of my mind. Think about every day on my mind. That's the way. And bringing some motion into our toes, our fingertips, re-waking up the body just a little bit. And rolling onto one side with the eyes still closed, finding a fetal position. We're going to stay here for a moment with the gaze still inward. And we're going to use our hands to hoist ourselves up into a seated position with the gaze still inward, the attention still on the self, to a seated position. Spine straight. Hands come overhead. Hands come in through heart center. And namaste. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day.